Do you know Joan Harmon?
I have met Joan Harmon, yes.
And you were aware that she had a friendship with
Cal, yes.
Is it fair to say that you thought that that was an unhealthy friendship?
Objection.
She wasn't allowed to answer that question about the defendant's ex and one of the victims in this case. Were they having an affair? What was their relationship all about? Well, Court TV, as I said, exclusively went to that neighborhood, spoke with neighbors, including Marlene LaRock. Take a listen.
I think that everybody needs to look at the evidence. I said, it's anybody that goes on trial. I don't care whether it's Kit Martin or John Doe down the street or whomever. When you go to court, you're supposed, when they arrest you, you have the, the sense of innocent until the court proves you guilty, And that's the way it should be in any court. I don't care whether you're invested in that case or whatever. That's the way it should be.
So you're looking at it with an open mind, like the jury.
Right. I've got an open mind, I have never met Kit Martin. I don't know him from Adam. So, I don't have any other thing to say about that.
So you're not jumping to the conclusion that it was him?
No, not really. I'm not jumping. It might look like it's, never mind. I didn't say nothing else.
Don't say anything.
Joining me now in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, Court TV legal correspondent Julie Janae. Also with us in Chicago, Illinois, criminal defense attorney and the attorney formerly represented R. Kelly, Steve Greenberg. Great to see everyone, or still representing R. Kelly. We're still waiting for whatever the judge is going to say. Well, we don't need to talk about that right now. But Julie Janae, let's talk about Marlene LaRock, that little reaction she had there. I mean, how do we read that when asked about what she thinks happened here and who she thinks is perhaps responsible?
It is hard to tell. She was such a compelling witness on the stand because of what she heard, what she was doing at the time of the alleged time that these murders happened. She mixed a lot of humor in with her testimony. This jury seemed to be really engaged in the way that she presented. She was familiar with the judge. She was familiar with the people in the courtroom. And she says that her friends call her Rocky in the neighborhood. She knows all the goings on. So I think she knows a lot, but did not want to get in the middle of it, especially on camera. But someone who said that she wanted to talk about the impact that this case, these murders, had on their small town of Pembroke, Kentucky. And Court TV, in the neighborhood today, it seems that obviously the case was moved to a different jurisdiction, but in that neighborhood, it seems most people are kind of looking at Kit Martin a little suspiciously. He was someone who was new to this area. He moved there in 2011, but a lot of the people who live there have been there their entire lives. We've heard that from many of the witnesses who have taken the stand for the prosecution. They say they've been there for forever. Their family has lived there. So he was really a newcomer to this area. Many people still feeling him out and wondering maybe how he was going to fit in. He first moved there with his now ex-wife, Joan Harmon. And then when that divorce and the breakup happened, then with a new fiance who we saw takes the stand. So I don't know how his neighbors really warmed to him, but to hear him tell it about Calvin Phillips, he said they never really vibed together, but that Calvin Phillips was going to be on his side during the court-martial proceeding. Steve Greenberg, Marlene LaRock, very interesting in her discussion with Court TV today, talking about the presumption of innocence and all of those things. I mean, she's not a juror. She was a witness for the prosecution. So I guess the defense should be happy that you've got not only a neutral jury, but you've got neutral witnesses.
Well, she can only testify to what she knows and what she saw and what she might have believed happened in her own mind is not relevant. She can't be there speculating. She would make a perfect juror in this case. The problems with this case are they don't really have a tight story of what happened. They have motive, they have some circumstantial evidence, but the circumstantial evidence is compromised, and you've got the ex-wife who's taking the fifth, so no one's going to hear from her, so you've got a legitimate alternative suspect.
And what are your thoughts about that? I mean, someone taking the fifth, because I thought that was a huge moment. Like, if you are 100% factually innocent and you haven't done anything wrong, you're not permitted to take the fifth, are you, Steve?
Of course you are. Everyone could take the fifth if they think that their testimony might tend to incriminate them. And the problem is...
How does an innocent person get incriminated, though? What if you are factually innocent, you haven't done anything?
Even if you're 100% completely innocent, you may not trust what could happen there. And how do they determine that? How do they know whether you are 100% factually innocent? So in order to take the fifth, yes, you have to say, I might say something that might tend to incriminate me. That's sort of the standard, and that's in your own mind. You know that. The judge can't say to you, what's that statement? What would it be? If the prosecution actually believed, they've got the great tool. If they believed that someone's taking the fifth and they're playing games, or they still need their testimony anyway, then they would go ahead and immunize them. The problem the prosecution has here is reading sort of the tea leaves. If they were to immunize these people, they'd probably get on the stand and say they did it.
That is a possibility. All right, now talk about circumstantial evidence. James Matlock, another neighbor Court TV spoke to today, also testified. His testimony really interesting. Take a listen.
Now, when you were out there on that field the Saturday before the burning cars were found, did you see anybody out there?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see the defendant out there?
Yes.
Where did you see him?
He walked through that open right there, turned him back that way.
Okay. So you were out there working and you see him?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a witness who saw the defendant before the murders in the area where the bodies were found, walking his dogs, kind of, you know, the way you'd interpret it is he's kind of scouting out the area. Here he is talking to Court TV today.
Do you have any feeling on who did it?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think y'all got the right man. I mean, he did. I believe he did. There's no doubt in my mind.
Why?
Because didn't nobody else have no enemies with Cal?
They did it?
No. Everybody around here knew him. I never knew nobody had no enemy with him. Not at all. So that's the only enemy he had. So who that lead to? Everybody in Pembroke knows him.
Interesting, Julia. You know, he's convinced that Kit Martin is absolutely guilty, and his testimony really is significant, I think.
It is critical, and especially since this case, we don't have any direct evidence. We have very little eyewitness testimony. His is really the only eyewitness, and it was from days before the murders that Kit Martin was seen by him walking around in the area where the bodies were dumped in a burned car. We also don't have a lot of physical evidence. So for him to say that he did see the defendant on the day in an area that may have been unfamiliar or somewhere you wouldn't expect the defendant to be, I think that's huge. I'm surprised at how unequivocal he was today in talking with us, because on the stand, you really got the sense that he didn't have any dog in the fight, especially since he didn't tell anyone that he saw Martin around that Rosetown Road area until March of this year. And his answer to this court was he didn't think it was important. He didn't know whether or not Martin killed those people, is how he said it on the stand. And he didn't tell anyone until police asked him. I think he told one friend, and it seems like maybe that friend told other people, and eventually police got around to him within the last couple of months. So to hear him say that Cal had no other enemies, but that makes you wonder why he didn't come forward with that information much sooner.
You know, Steve, another one of those circumstances, you've got, you can make the allegation that he's scouting out the location ahead of time. A shell casing that matches his .45 found at the scene 5 months later by the family, not investigators, but still found there. You've also got the incredible motive evidence. You've got the strange going to bed at 11:30 at night, but setting the alarm for 1:10 in the morning that the bodies were presumably removed from the home and put out in that field. So there's a lot of little circumstances that if a jury wants to put together, they could put together here, Steve.
Right. So the 1:10 in the morning getting up on the day that the bodies were supposedly moved, bad fact. The bullet being found 5 months later, that's a weird fact at best, because why didn't the investigators find that at the time? This guy, who apparently only owns one shirt, coming forward long after the murder in this small town where it has to be the biggest news going around, and saying, oh yeah, I remember years before I saw this guy walking, along this scene. That's not really helpful to the prosecution. There's a lot of things. There was these dog tags. I read something that dog tags were found in the victim's home. Somebody, a military guy is going to know if he lost his dog tags. He's not going to leave his dog tags there. That's like taking a selfie at the murder scene. So there's a lot of facts that make you question either this guy is really smart and really stupid, or somebody's setting him up.
Well, WSMV in Nashville, Tennessee shared with Court TV its exclusive interview with Kit Martin. Investigative reporter Jeremy Finley interviewed Martin in April of 2016 after the triple murder, but before Martin's arrest for the crimes.
Why would she do this? Why would she make these claims if they weren't true?
She swore to me that that's what she was going to do when I asked her for a divorce. The first words out of her mouth, and my adult daughter, Kenzie, was standing right there, is, I will ruin you if you divorce me. I will ruin your career. I will ruin your life. I know how to do it.
Obviously, Court TV's not been able to confirm the allegations made by Martin in 2016, but ultimately it'll be up to this jury and to decide if these claims are credible. Julie Janae, do we think the defense is going to go there and put Kit Martin on the stand? Any indication one way or the other?
No indication yet of whether they're going to put him on the stand. I'm expecting he's going to wait until all of that evidence is out as far as their case in chief and decide with his attorneys whether it would make sense for him to take the stand. But because he's done so many media interviews, I'm leaning toward him feeling comfortable getting on the stand and telling this jury, this is my side of the story.
I think he may. All right. Julie Janae is in Kentucky. We will speak again next week. Great work. Steve Greenberg will stay with us. We've got our eyes on what's happening in Tennessee right now in the trial of Joe Daniels. We'll get to that next.